Going live. Okay, I am live. Hello. Hi, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining me. So I was asked to do this live stream about doing a TEDx talk. I am actually a member of a group of coaches. I am a career coach. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kelly Fallon, and I was part of this group. Everybody started talking about TEDx talks. I raised my hand to say, yes, I'm familiar with them. I did one, and I had over 100 people contact me and ask me to do private Zooms. I thought that was just a little bit too much. So I figured instead I would just go ahead and do a live stream. And if people have questions along the way, they can go ahead and ask me. So thank you to all of you who are here. And if anybody does have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat box. So like I said, my name is Kelly. I am a career coach. However, that is not how I got into the TED Talk. So just to give you a little bit of background. I worked for the Career Center when I was a university student. That was not what I intended to do with my life. I graduated, I went into working in tourism. I worked for Disney. I worked in Caesars Entertainment in Las Vegas. Eventually, they told me that if I wanted to get promoted, I needed to go and do a master's. So as I was getting my master's, I was often asked to be a guest speaker, and then at some point, somebody said you should do a PhD. So I got my PhD. I became a business school professor, and I specialized in tourism, but I ended up sort of moving into professional development. And then that's how I'm now in career coaching. So I just like to mention that because my TED Talk was not on career coaching. My TED Talk, was on tourism. Sorry, my apologies. So what is a TEDx talk? So TED, of course, stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design. And their big thing is you have to be discussing an idea worth spreading. Excuse me. So I was really fortunate in the sense that I actually applied twice to be a TEDx speaker. The first time I was denied. So what I ended up doing is I ended up going back and asking for feedback. And so they gave me some suggestions, and then I applied again and was successful my second time. So I wanted to just kind of give you a background and explain what they told me and sort of how it works. So TED is for really famous speakers like Seth Godin and Jamie Oliver, those types of people. TEDx is the same concept, but on a community level. So what you want to be doing is you want to be looking at what kinds of TEDx events are being scheduled in your particular community. Now, a lot of times they are sponsored at universities. A city may sponsor them in general. Some organizations, so Google, actually they do a TEDx Google. I will mention this a little bit later, but I did a Fulbright scholarship. So Fulbright does their own TEDx event. Semester at Sea was also an organization that I was associated with at one point. So Semester at Sea does one. So what you can do is you can go onto the TED website and just look for TEDx events. They actually have the schedule all the way until the end of 2021, and look for events in your community. Now, you don't necessarily have to be associated with that particular university or whatever organization is sponsoring it. In fact, they want people from other areas of the community that are not directly involved in that particular organization. So for instance, I did TEDx UQ, University of Queensland. That is where I was working at the time and continue to work as a professor. I was the only professor from UQ that spoke. There was one graduate student from UQ that spoke, and then one alumni or one alum. Everybody else was just from the community within the city. So look at that, look around and just figure out what's going on in your area. So that's the first thing. So you can go onto that event and that website on the TED website and look at all the events that are coming up. Normally, they start doing the call for speakers anywhere from 6 to 12 months ahead of time. So it would be good to start looking at what's going on in 2021 and find out what's still going on in your location, and then contact them and ask them if they've selected their speakers yet. So the first thing that you need to keep in mind is that the whoever's organizing that particular event, they will select a theme. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that your topic matches that particular theme, first of all. And that was part of the reason that I was disqualified the first time. The second thing that you just need to be aware of is that you are competing against everybody else within that pool that has applied that year. So it might be 100 people, it might be 1,000 people. It really just depends. So that was kind of the second thing working against me the first time around, is that there was actually somebody else from UQ, somebody else actually who was a tourism professor. She was much more aligned with the particular theme that they had that year. And she just had a lot more, she was a lot older than me. She had a lot more backing and just, she was much more well-known in the field. So as a result, automatically there was no shot for me. So don't let it get you down. You may have to apply multiple times before you get selected. So you just need to keep that in mind. So with regard to your actual application, and this is something that you can think about as you're going forward, obviously you need to be very clear on your idea, okay? So what is your idea? Why is your idea important? Why is your idea and the way that you're going to present it kind of different or unique to what other people are going to be doing? Like, what is it that stands out about what you want to discuss? So obviously you need to be thinking about that. So make sure that that aligns with the theme. And you're also going to want to be able to consider how that will impact, they like you to bring it back to the community. So if you can impact the community, but then also have a global impact as well. That's also helpful. But as you're thinking about what your topic is going to be, you also want to make sure that you can showcase your authority on this particular topic. So for instance, when you do your application, they will ask you, have you published on this before? Have you ever been interviewed about this before? Do you have a YouTube channel where you discuss this? Do you have a blog about it? Have you ever been on, podcasts? So you want to be thinking about how you are building up your credibility, and why, because they're going to ask you, why is it that you are the perfect person to be discussing this? So for instance, for me, my topic was want to help Africa travel there. So basically, instead of giving money and being a volunteer and that sort of thing, instead of sort of pitying Africa, travel there, spend your money, because these are all the different ways that it impacts the community. So for me, I had worked and lived in Africa for several years, on and off. I had received a Fulbright fellowship to spend some time at the University of Botswana. I was there for 18 months. I had a blog that had about 500 different postings and then hundreds of thousands of views. I had been published in several different publications like the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and other places about this. So you have to have that authority and be able to say that, yes, it's not just that this is a passion project for me, it's a passion project for me, and other people recognize that. So there's that. The other thing that they really want to know is that you have the capacity to speak publicly. So they will ask, have you spoken at conferences? For me, it was very easy because, I'm a professor, I teach. So I'm standing in front of 500 people every week. So if you are sort of an unproven speaker, it won't discount you, but you need to be able to say, oh, I've done a training at my work, and so I'm comfortable speaking in front of 100 people, or whatever it may be. So keep that in mind with your application. You're going to need to discuss your topic, why you are really well suited to, be presenting this. You're going to want to be talking about all of your, and they will ask for links to publications, podcasts, any media that you have. So start collecting those now. And if you don't have those now, start looking for opportunities to put yourself out there and start building up that portfolio, because, they want to know that they can refer to you as, this is the person that did blah, blah, blah. I just have a couple notes here that I wanted to refer to. A couple things to keep in mind. Every process, these are independently organized events, and so you'll see that on the TEDx website. So as a result, every process is a little bit different. Some organizations and some sponsors of these different events, they will select all of the speakers on their own. Some of them will go through an application process. A lot of times what they'll ask for, the organizers will ask for nominations, and then they'll go out and ask a speaker if they're interested and can you apply, so forth and so on. But the vast majority of them do some kind of application process. So very often you obviously have a written expression of interest, and then you actually, for me, I had a written expression of interest. They asked me what was my topic, why was I qualified, et cetera, et cetera. They evaluated that, and then there was a second round where they did an interview. And then again, they kind of got more of a feel as to what people were going to be doing. And then there was actually a third round where you had to come in and present the first sort of 2 minutes of your talk. So then you get selected. Some of them will be very short, some of them will be quite long. The absolute longest that it can be is 18 minutes. However, they will tell you, and mine was 18 minutes, and to be honest, I regret it. I wish I had done one shorter. They will actually tell you that shorter is better, and they will recommend that you keep it below 10 minutes because there is certainly a drop-off rate with people finishing them. You know, people only have so long of an attention span. So if you can make it a bit short and direct and to the point, they will certainly appreciate that. But they'll ask you how long you expect it to be. So you do want to keep that in mind. They will run you through a couple of sort of practice presentations beforehand. There's a couple of things that you should remember. One is they prefer you don't use notes. Those screens that you see the speakers looking at, that is not their speech. That is simply a countdown letting them know how far they've gone and how much time they have left. So the expectation is that you memorize it. So do keep that in mind. The other thing that you should know is that if you are filmed, there is no guarantee that they will actually put it out there for the public, okay? So it actually has to go to TED. TED has to approve it because there is the association there, and then they will give their blessing and it will be published if they're happy with it. I know for a fact that some of the people who did their presentation that were in my TEDx event, some of them did not go through, okay? And that was for various different reasons. Either one person ended up really struggling to get through, so that one didn't get published, and then there were a few others that didn't. So they will kind of give you guidance along the way, letting you know how you can improve and what they would suggest. And they do expect you to pay attention. For me, one of the things I really wanted to talk about was the dangers of volunteer tourism. I'm very much against orphanage tourism. A lot of times these children are very exploited, this, that, and the other thing. And one of the things that the organizers that was commenting said is, you're really going to alienate a lot of people because they think that they've gone and done one of these things and they think they've done a good job. And I said, well, I don't think there's any reason after the fact to let them know that this is really what happened, but they asked me to sort of make that a little bit more delicate in the way that I presented it. And so I did, because they said otherwise it would probably not get approved. So those were a few things to kind of keep in mind. A lot of times, like I said, it is about a 6-month process between application and the actual event. And then for us, it took almost 6 months on the nose for it to be approved by TED and then published online. But the one thing that I would say is it was an incredible experience. I would totally do it again. It opened up a lot of other opportunities for me afterwards. I had people come to me and they were interested in working with me or collaborating with me. And it was really just a fun experience. So I would definitely recommend it if you have any interest. If you would like to know any more, if you have specific comments, please feel free. Obviously, this will be posted below after the recording finishes in a few minutes, but please feel free to leave me a comment or a question, and I would be more than happy to answer it, because I think that anybody who has an interest in doing it definitely should. It's very well worth it. But I think if you keep all of those things in mind, it will really help you with going forward and being successful with your application. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me. I certainly do appreciate it. There were only a handful of people here. I know there were a lot of people overseas that wanted to see this, but thank you so much. Good luck. And hey, if you do end up doing a TED Talk, or a TEDx talk, would you put the link or let me know? Because I would love to see how it turns out. Okay, thank you all so much. And this is my first live stream, so let's see if I can do this properly. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye, everybody. End stream. Yes, please.